You may remember in my first video, I said this.
I haven't even touched how NASA are supposed to be behind everything.
Well, let's address that right now as we return to NASA and the flat Earth. In the land of Flerfs, NASA are the big bad. I'm not sure exactly why that is, but there you go. They're at the center of it all. They are the great deceivers. Literally, they will tell you that in Hebrew, Nasa means to deceive. Not quite. They actually have it confused with the word nasha. In Hebrew, nasa actually means to lift up. And in Spanish, it means fish trap. But before we get into the details, first let's do a quick potted history of NASA. Founded in 1958, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration was charged with competing with Cold War rival the Soviet Union's own space program. And after some trial and error, in 1969, NASA had its greatest success when it successfully landed the first humans on the moon. That particular conspiracy is getting its own video. Since then, however, a combination of dwindling public interest and federal budget has meant space trips have become less and less frequent. Until now, that is, as NASA plans to send its Artemis 2 rocket back to the moon in 2024. Now, when discussing the history of NASA, there is one person that flat earthers like to bring up. Werner von Braun, architect on the Saturn rocket. It is an inconvenient truth to Globers that he was a member of the Nazi Party. How much of their ideology he shared and how much of it was out of necessity is a subject of much debate. Either way, it makes no difference to the shape of the Earth. If you are new to the subject of flat Earth, you may be wondering, but what about all those pictures and videos we have from space? Well, remember what I said about NASA being the great deceiver? Most flat earthers don't believe in space, so any image said to be taken from space is dismissed as fake. They say it's either CGI or composite. What is composite? Well, take a phone. Take a picture of whatever's next to you. Congratulations, you've just taken a composite photo. Composite is electronic data reconstructed via computer software into an image. In 2023, nearly all images are composite. What they really mean, though, is when multiple images are stitched together, such as with the 2002 Blue Marble. Now, what actually happened was the satellite they used was too close to get a single image. So what they did was they took lots of photos and put them all together in Photoshop. It was literally the only way they could do it. Now, a lot of the images do admittedly look quite different from each other. So what's going on there? Meet Buddy. He is part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. But we'll deal with that later. For now, I'm just going to play around with a few settings. As you can see, I can make him look different in every image. This is similar as with the satellites. Different cameras, different lenses, different distances, different lighting. How about those satellites though? How do Flerfs explain them? The most common answer put forward is weather balloons. NASA are, after all, the largest purchasers of helium. Though this is true, balloons would not make for reliable satellites, or as they are, to conditions. Maybe you've seen the International Space Station orbit overhead. Holographic projection, apparently. No, I've got no idea how. Or maybe you've seen the videos of the crew of the ISS. All actors and a studio. Though you would think with NASA's budget, they could afford something a bit better. You guys are terrible. Ah yes, the NASA budget. Flat Earthers do like to make a big song and dance about that, throwing out wild numbers like $50 million a day. In 2022, the US government budget for NASA was $24 billion. That may sound a lot, but in terms of US government spending, that is minuscule. For comparison, they spent over $700 billion on defense. And just to further ram the point home, the total US government spending in 2022 was $6.3 trillion. NASA's budget made up 0.36% of that. Wow, mind-blowing stuff, eh? I think that's the main NASA talking points raised by Flat Earth. If there's anything I've missed, please let me know. Next up on the channel, we put on our detective hats as we look into the world of unsolved mysteries. Until then, enjoy this weird and wonderful life.